Welcome to the month of July 2024 as we look at some of the energies and opportunities that are going to be coming our way for the month ahead. Now, in July, we have a universal month number 6 to be aware of. It is a beautiful month of love, of harmony, of relationships. It is very, very complementary with Cancer. So we are going to have Cancerian season for the majority of July, then moving into Leo season. And naturally, the 6 with both of these archetypes is going to be very complementary. Now, if you caught some of the previous months before, we did have a bit of a dose of karmic debt numbers. And of course, your chart, your blueprint, your experiences are going to be completely unique for you. These are very light summaries. They do not at all dictate any of the main experiences that you could be going through. Of course, just always, as always, use your inner compass, your inner guidance system to navigate every moment of the day as we move through some quite interesting times. But these high level energies are going to give you a little bit of an understanding of what is coming our way and potentially what might be showing up for you. If you have certain energy archetypes within your chart, for example. Now, 6 is a very beautiful, beautiful number. On a personal level, I don't have much of the 6 energy in my chart, unfortunately, which I feel that is probably one of the reasons why I gravitate towards this archetype, because of its connection with love. And connection with love means relationships. It has a very soft heart. It has a very sweet and beautiful way of connecting with others. On the shadow side of the 6, boundaries can be very difficult for this archetype, unfortunately. But I feel that we can all learn through this archetype as far as where our boundaries most needed within ourselves, maybe our own personal boundaries or boundaries with maybe other people. And boundaries are incredibly important. Even our own boundaries, even being aware of where we are overstepping what is right for us or feels right on a deep level, and then the boundaries with other people, right? And being very firm and very confident with that without feeling guilty, without putting extra pressure on ourselves, because we can easily do this. We can easily carry the burdens and the pressures and the guilt and the shame or even fear if we are holding our own and implementing strong boundaries towards other people. So if that is the case, because the 6 archetype is very much of love, you have the conflicting polarizations between love and connection and boundaries and being strong with discernment without feeling guilty. And this is the dynamic of the 6, the polarization of the 6 archetype, is understanding how much love we all have and how much love we can give and accept and embody within ourselves. But where are the boundaries within ourselves that we might be overstepping, or that we might be not adhering to, or not being strict within ourselves, or honoring what is important for us with our own personal boundaries, and then externally with relationships with those around us. Setting up healthy boundaries while not feeling guilty or bad by doing so. And it is a fine line, especially if you are a caring person, especially if you have a big heart, and this is going to be part of this month. I feel this can be maybe an exercise you can incorporate into your practice of where are the boundaries within yourself, your levels of comfort, fear versus trust, for example, or even strength versus openness, or maybe boundaries versus openness, however you want to interpret it into your practice. But maybe incorporate it into this month, because this will be a good time to exercise that, especially considering we have Cancer season for the majority of July, moving into Leo. And both of these archetypes have a very strong component of love, of the heart. Now we have Cancer season, which does have a very strong resemblance to home, towards relationships, towards matters of the heart. This is the first water zodiac in the zodiac calendar. It's a very young sign, meaning this is the first water archetype where we get to understand our emotions. We get to connect with our emotions and our senses and understand what's in there and what needs to be maybe developed or matured through maybe some difficult times, maybe through some loss or through some some internal challenges or external challenges, however that resonates with you. But through the understanding of the emotional self, that's where we get to learn the deepest. That's where we get our deep learning. And I want to also say learning and understanding from a level that we can't even articulate, because it is of the feelings, it is of the senses. It's a very, very abstract and very deep place to connect within ourselves, and working with all the water archetypes, but Cancer, especially being the first zodiac, allows us to be very inquisitive with our emotions, starting to connect a little bit more, even going into some of the pains and the hurts, starting to feel maybe a new sense of self or a new understanding based on a difficulty or based on sense of self-worth and boundaries that might need to be implemented. Or even how are we overreacting or reacting to life situations based on our emotional impulses. And that can be a shadow side of Cancer to be very aware of. Cancer has the archetype of the crab, so it has a very strong shell, a very strong exterior, but a very, very soft interior. And if you can relate to maybe being an empath or a sensitive person or someone who's very caring and soft on the inside, we can build a very hard exterior on the outside if we've lost trust, if we've gone through pain and deceit and very difficult relationships. We can build that strong exterior in our outer self. And then thus cutting the world out, cutting relationships out, or wanting to protect ourselves and wanting to isolate. And that can come in very unconsciously without awareness, but it is a very protective mechanism that we can find ourselves in, right? And then there can be even conflict, if we want to go deeper with it, regarding relationship dynamics, wanting to love and wanting to connect, but yet having the shell, the barrier that's protecting the heart, that's protecting the softer side of self. But this can also play into the boundaries aspect of the 6, where there can be a dynamic playing in of a lack of flow with interpersonal relationships. Now, boundaries do not necessarily mean to cut people out. Boundaries don't mean necessarily to, completely avoid people and avoid situations. It's a very fine line, and you can find fluidity and flow with boundaries. Just knowing within yourself where your boundaries lie, where your safety lies within yourself, what makes you feel good, or what resonates with you with regards to certain relationships versus other relationships. And also tuning in with regards to maybe guilt, feeling guilty for creating certain boundaries and letting that go. So the beginning portion of July is all about understanding the emotions and the boundaries and the protectedness and the guardedness versus our softer side within, and how we can find more trust and fluidity and learning through this, given that this is, again, the first water archetype in the zodiac calendar. It is a perfect time for learning our emotions. It's a perfect time for learning and dissecting, but also on the shadow side, not holding on too long, because that is unfortunately one of the shadow aspects of Cancer, is holding on to emotions, really the claws, the pinchers that can be very defensive and very protective, but also can hold on very tightly to some of the difficulties and to some of the memories and to some of the emotional attachments. And similarly, with the archetype of the 6, is very similar in that regard, with regard to boundaries and protectedness. Now, we can be very giving. I'm sure maybe some of you can relate, being very giving and very warm and accepting up to a point. And then we up to a point can take on a lot of other people's pain or struggle or projection or shadow aspects. But then if we don't have the boundaries to create space within those interactions, we will take on not only their energy, but we will pile on unconscious, unresolved discomfort or overstepping of boundaries within ourselves. And then we reach that point where we might all of a sudden have an explosive reaction to something, or we might feel very reactive, or we might feel very defensive, or we might feel very protective over ourselves or over other people, where it may come from a very unconscious, shadowy place, right? So these are the fine lines that we get to dance with in the month of July, especially again with regards to Cancer season and this archetype of 6. But 6 does have a very beautiful resemblance or a beautiful relation to love, to relationships. Now, this is again this Cancerian archetype as well. Then we go into Leo season, later portion of the month, which is still it still has a frequency of love regarding the heart of the lion, right? So Leo is fixed energy of fire, and Leo has a very strong connection with the heart, has a very strong relationship with the heart. The heart of the lion, like I said, it's a very giving energy. It's a very gracious, I should say, very gracious archetype. There are a few astrological dates that I would like to highlight for the month of July just to be aware of that are quite interesting. The first one is Neptune going retrograde in Pisces, which will be quite interesting. And I feel that the energy might already be moving into that direction where you may be feeling clear on certain aspects of yourself or certain areas of your life that may have been almost in an illusion. So be aware of where are there maybe veils or illusions that are overclouding something that needs to be faced in reality. This actually has already come into play for myself. And it's a very funny energy to work with, this one in particular. If you're familiar with the tarot, it's going to be the moon card in tarot. Our subconscious plays into this as well, where we may have fears that can create illusions. We may even have a little bit of a detachment from reality, and not in a direct way, but almost in a way of looking at life through a specific lens, through a certain perspective, and missing details and missing reality of life or of a situation. This can come in as a bit of a wake-up call. This can come in as a bit of an aha moment as well. It can also peel the veil back where you can see something clearer than before. You might also shake yourself out of almost a state of being that you may have been in for a while. You might all of a sudden have a bit of a shift in consciousness or awareness around this time. Like I said, I've already been going through this, and I had a big realization that I found myself almost struggling with, and I couldn't see the clarity in a particular situation. It was almost like I was in an illusion of some kind, now starting to see my path in a way of something I need to do to move forward. That requires something very logical and something very clear and very realistic. So be aware of the illusions versus reality in this one. This is going to be an inner job, an inside job to pay attention to that. Sometimes we can get lost in the spiritual aspects. Sometimes we can get lost in the illusions. Sometimes we can get lost in our own fears and our own unconscious, subconscious self. Pay attention. This is going to be self-observation, not to be worried at all. It's simply self-reflection and to see where you can be more logical and practical about certain aspects of life. July the 5th, we are going to have the new moon in Cancer, which I will, of course, record a separate video for that. It is a clean start. It is a beautiful refresh with regards to matters of the heart, with regards to, again, our emotional self, maybe working on boundaries. I will record a separate video when we get closer to that, but it definitely is going to have a really nice aspect of the universal month number 6 tied in with this Cancerian energy to work with. On July 11th, we have Venus moving into Leo. So remember, before this date, we have Venus in Cancer, which is a beautiful, beautiful pairing for love and for sensitivity and for beautiful, beautiful relationships, harmonious relationships. Moving into Leo next, which is again very complementary. However, love and connection could take things to the next level where things might get a bit more bold and a bit more daring and a bit more expressive and even maybe a bit more intimate. Be aware of the intensity of this energy if you have a close relationship in your orbit. Just be aware of any drama or any intensity, because sometimes the energy of this can be very explosive at times, or even dramatic if it is in the shadow polarities in any kind of way. July 20th, we have Mars in Gemini, which can invoke probably a great deal of action towards learning, problem solving, even social situations. Mars is, of course, the planet of action, of war, of progress, determination, will, fire. And Gemini is a very fast-paced, moving archetype that will allow for a lot of movement to happen around this time. So again, really good for problem solving, very supportive for maybe even creating action in certain areas, learning, expansion, social activities, and relationships. Then on July the 21st, we have the full moon in Capricorn. So we have a double back-to-back 2 full moon in Capricorns moving from June into July. So it's a bit of a reset on the full moon, I would say, schedule, if you will, or the cycles of the full moon. So we're going to go back into Capricorn because also we are in Cancer season still. So we always have the sun and the moon opposing the opposite archetypes on the zodiac calendar. So we're still in Cancer season. We're going to have another full moon in Capricorn, which I will highlight at a later date, as I feel the opportunity of the second full moon in Capricorn will be slightly different than the first one. And then on July the 22nd, we have the sun moving into Leo, which is going to warm up our spirits, our hearts, and moving into this beautiful heart of the lion, very generous energy, very warm, very passionate, very expressive, and very authentic. So this can bring a bit more energy up within ourselves to be more maybe courageous with how we are expressing ourselves, maybe a little bit more daring. Leo invites us to be the main character on our stage, which I've mentioned this in other videos as well before, being the actor on our stage. But this also is in how we express ourselves. It is in how we feel about our authentic, true self, how we show up, how we want to maybe create and engage with the world, and also again with of course relationships. So we still have the 6th in effect with Leo, which is a very complementary energy. There could be a lot of love and a lot of care and a lot of nurturing with relationships still moving into Leo season. Naturally, I feel that June will slow down a little bit. We have the archetypes of a little bit slower moving energy. Of course, be aware of some of the shadow aspects, but I feel just in general, things will tend to slow down somewhat. But I would love to hear how your June has been, and if any of the archetypes rang true for the month of June, as we still are in a universal month number 5. We still have a little bit of the energy of change that is afoot. So maybe you've noticed some drastic change. I do feel the full moon in Capricorn was a bit of an opener in some kind of way, but it also may have given a strong release in order for a door to open. So if you have noticed that with the full moon in Capricorn that we just had, there's going to be a very nice opportunity for the month of July to work with. If it's resonating with you, if you've experienced a bit of a shift, a purge almost with this full moon, know that after every purge, there is an opening. There is a shift. There is a new. So maybe even put some attention to where the new is going to be. What does your intuition tell you? Where is your heart leading you? Where is your heart guiding you towards? What do you feel within yourself that might need to change, or that might need to heal, or even bringing a relationship closer? This is about relationships. This is about our own heart, our intuition. This is also about the boundaries, being aware of the boundaries within ourselves and within other relationships. Maybe letting our guard down a little bit to allow love in, or maybe putting a protective shield up or guard up towards relationships or difficulties that do not have a place anymore. Maybe some that have been very unhealthy or that do not align with our highest good and greatest potential. I hope this offers some guidance on your path forward moving into the month of July. Wishing you all the best, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care.